Welcome to We the People, a new birth of freedom. Thank you so much for stopping by. I really appreciate it. If you haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe button. Tell your friends, your relatives, your neighbors, your acquaintances, and of course, tell your enemies. Leave your comments below. I'll get back to you. I just returned from a over 2,000-mile trip. I went to Moyers, Oklahoma, and Paris, Texas. On October 5th, we broke the Guinness World Book of Records for the most Harley-Davidsons in a single parade. Prior to that, the country of Greece held the record at 2,404 Harley-Davidsons. Well, we broke that by accomplishing 3,497 Harley-Davidsons. It's quite an event. All the proceeds went to Motorcycle Missions, which is a nonprofit charitable organization that helps veterans that's suffering from PTSD. Experience of a lifetime. It was history in the making. And I got to thinking about all the veterans that have suffered, that have been deformed, lost limbs, and of course, the ultimate loss, they've lost their lives. And families, wives, husbands, children have had to deal with that. It was a momentous event, triumphant, victorious, but it was also a sobering event for me. To see that many vets show up in support of one another and see civilians show up in support of our military veterans and thank them for their service and for our freedom. And this all started back primarily the American Revolutionary War for independence. Independence. Without independence, you don't have true freedom. Without self-sovereignty, self-governing, it's not true freedom. There's still an element of tyranny in there. There's communism, fascism, socialism, Marxism, you name it. There's some form of ism in there that interrupts true freedom. And our founding fathers understood that. Whether it be on the political stage or in the religious arena, if someone is controlling you unethically, immorally, it's tyranny. But our founding fathers understood that, and that's why they waged such a war to defend their vision of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And that's why we're grateful to our veterans today, even though many of the wars, should I say, many of these political wars did not need to happen. And you think about our Vietnam vets that came back from Vietnam suffering all kinds of tragedies and traumas. And they were primarily forgotten until I think it was President Reagan that started giving them some recognition. I could be wrong on that. Correct me if I am, because I want to be right. I never served in the military. I've kicked myself a million times because I didn't. But I did 20 years in law enforcement, so that was my form of service to this country. I love the United States of America. I don't love what's going on the political scene and many times on the religious scene. There's corruption on both sides. There's good people on both sides, there's corruption on both sides. Nevertheless, I'm going to read you something. In the context of thinking about our veterans and the wars that have taken place throughout the American history, listen to these words. You should be familiar with them. On November 19th, 1863, November 19th, 1863. Think about how long that was. How long ago that was. Think about it. But yet, it really wasn't that long ago. A man stood to the podium, tall, thin, bony, angular, rugged. He was known for wearing a black top hat, little beard around his chin, fire in his eyes, wise, intelligent, full of common sense. I'm not going to read the entire speech. I'll say that for another time, but I want to pull out this part of the Gettysburg Address by Abraham Lincoln. That we here highly resolve that these dead, now he's speaking here of the Civil War and all the slain soldiers that forfeited their lives for the Civil War, that we here highly resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain. This was during the time that slavery was in the crosshairs. Should the slaves go free, or should they remain slaves? Now, there was other things involved in this Civil War battle, but that was a primary issue. Should they remain slaves, or should they be set free as all other men and women? Listen closely. That we here highly resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain. That this nation, the one you and I live in, under God, shall have a new birth of freedom. That's why I've called this YouTube channel, We the People, a New Birth of Freedom. I was inspired by these words. Shall have a new birth of freedom, and that government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth. That entire speech consisted of 272 words. Abraham Lincoln said more in those 272 words. That simplistic but profound speech, 272 words, he said more in those 270 words than most politicians say in their entire political career. And certainly those words were built upon and inspired by truth. Truth that was self-evident. That those that forfeited their life to see that others would experience freedom, that they did not die in vain. Likewise, here in 2019, October, I want those words to resound in our ears, that those that have continued to fight for our freedom in some form or another, through the world wars, Korean War, Vietnam War, even though many of the wars were so highly questionable, but in some form or another was in the context of our freedom, that they too have not died in vain. That they too have not forfeited their life, shed their blood, lost their limbs for no reason. But the voices that are coming out of Washington, D.C., and out of many governmental entities in the states who want to implement socialism, some form of communism, fascism, whatever ism it is, they're tyrants with a smile. They're tyrants with an ulterior motive. They want all the power to tell you and I what to do and what we can't do. That's not what this nation was built upon. That's not what men forfeited their lives for. We must raise up, people, as our forefathers did. We must sound the alarm. Give me liberty or give me death. That the tree of liberty shall be watered from time to time with the blood of patriots and tyrants. Are we getting close to that? You see, the 10 Amendments and those that follow suit, which support and defend true life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, those amendments are absolute. They're absolute. That's why they use words shall not. Congress shall not. These things shall not be infringed. The only way we can lose freedom is if we personally forfeit it and we subject ourselves to tyrants, to someone with an ism that wants to control you and I. I believe already it's went too far. I mean, if we can't trust them with our money, you think we can trust them with our lives, our liberty, and our pursuit of happiness? I don't think so. Nevertheless, I leave you with these immortal words by Abraham Lincoln, President Abraham Lincoln, that these shall not have died in vain. That these that have fought for freedom, unlike any nation on earth, shall not have died in vain. Until next time, be a true American, and God bless you.